Yes! Welcome into Sportsbit Betting Insight today, weekend preview edition. Paulie and Teddy, big game breakdown. NFL Week 1. Patriots, Cardinals, Giants, Cowboys, Bills and the Ravens. We'll start it off with the Bengals and the Jets and the play of the day. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books in a second, and bad for the books with the finish with the total in the game last night. But the Broncos get the win. Simeon played well. 3 turnovers inside the 30-yard line, and they got the breaks last year, and they get the break at the end as Gano misses to win the game. Broncos, underdogs. They get the win, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to say that Denver got the break. I mean, kickers. Gano missed the field goal at the end. After hitting the first one, the old freeze the kicker, it never works, except for Kubiak. But on that same drive, Carolina got a penalty on a, 4th and 21 that gave them a first down. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Panthers finished with that +2 turnover margin, but the offense never really got going. Boy, that Broncos D looked every bit as good last night as it did in the Super Bowl. And let's be honest, Trevor Siemian looked good. He ran the offense efficiently. You talked about the total, fiddle in the middle. Opened at 43, bet down to 40.5. I'd have to say, I think the result was pretty good for the house all in all. Books that catered to recreational bettors, it was all Panthers money last night. Books that catered to sharp bettors, there was a fair bit of Denver money. But a lot of that came Denver plus the points, not Denver so much on the money line. And total-wise, there was a fair bit of under. I think they wouldn't have minded that last field goal going through, but not in a situation where had the field goal gone through. Guess what? That line opened Denver -1 over the summer, and then it would have landed in the middle that way because they'd have had Broncos liability and Panthers liability with the 2-point Carolina win. So overall, for a game that came right down to the number, side and total, hey, didn't work out too bad for the house.
Simeon 18-26. I felt the Broncos got away with at least 3 helmet-to-helmet hits on Cam Newton that were not called, and Jimmy Vaccaro's on every Tuesday. Jimmy at the South Point took to your point, Teddy, they took a $60,000 bet on Carolina minus the points. So that didn't get there, and a nice win for the books in that one. All right, bad bets, Major League Baseball. The Cardinals blown out at home again. Unbelievable. They're great on the road. They are lousy at home. The Mets now are the second wild card as of right now.
And you look through the wild card standings in the National League, it's like, who wants it? Even the first wild card spot isn't all that exciting. But St. Louis, they've been a bad bet at home all year long. Blown out again by Milwaukee. And Jaime Garcia, he's been really struggling for St. Louis. They've been losing consistently with him on the hill of late, and that's going to be a problem for the Cards. But it's a problem for all these wild card contenders. Nobody can find a way to win.
Yep. And Teddy, a lot of guys go up to the windows in September and just say, well, they have to win. Just because you have to win doesn't mean you're going to win. A lot of teams fall apart in September.
Sure, must win never means that you actually win. It just means that you have to win. Remember that collapse from the Red Sox a couple of years ago? Boy, we just bet against. They were -$2 all September. They just lost game after game after game after game. Happens every year. You find a team or 2 or 3 that consistently loses their must-win games down the stretch.
Another bad bet on a total. Phillies Nationals bet up from 8.5 to 9.5. Never had a chance.
Yeah, it's rare for a game to cross through 9. But I wonder if Alec Asher's playing a little roulette in that ball game. 6 innings pitched, no runs, 2 hits. And usually you get 6 innings at work without a run, 2 hits allowed. You get more than 0 strikeouts. You got a bunch of fly ball outs in that game as well. So Asher, on the lucky side, the advanced metric sites won't grade him as well as the standard metric sites that love the ERA and the whip and that sort of thing.
Some phenomenal managerial jobs so far in baseball. Madden, Dave Roberts. How about Girardi? The Yankees win again. They're a season high, 9 games over 500 after they traded a lot of key guys.
We're talking about everyone that's betting against the Yankees is a bad bet. Let's start calling the Yankees a good bet. This is a team that everyone gave up on. Oh, they're dealing away the bullpen. The veterans are going out of town. And yet they've had so many role players come in and either pitch effectively or be in the lineup effectively for Girardi and company. You make Casey's manager of the year, Paulie. You really can.
Yep. Let's shift gears right here to fantasy football. You can take advantage of some bad fantasy information that's out there, especially week one, when all the writers are paid to churn out copy at this time of year. They go revert to the meaningless stuff from last year to make their cases. Not to point them out, but I guess we're calling them out. Here's a doozy from Matthew Berry, Teddy.
Well,
Matthew Berry, not the actor.
Yeah, the reason why I use Matthew Berry, he's the most popular guy, and it's easy to find for any of the fantasy writers, and there's every site's got them. Easy to find dozens of examples of this, but let's just read this from Matthew Berry. Quote, quarterbacks I hate in week one. 122. That's how many consecutive pass attempts Philip Rivers has against the Chiefs without a touchdown. The Chargers will try to establish the run here against a defense missing a few stars, but is still formidable and allowed the fifth fewest fantasy points to opposing QBs last season. On the road, in Arrowhead, against a KC team that he failed to throw a TD against in 2 games last season, blah, 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 blah. Okay, last season, the Chargers played the Chiefs without Ken Wiesenhunt as their offensive coordinator. They didn't have Travis Benjamin, who they signed in free agency. Keenan Allen, their star wideout, was hurt. Most of their starting offensive line was hurt. They're all here now. None of them were here when Philip Rivers failed to throw a touchdown pass last December. Melvin Gordon, well, he was banged up in that game. Antonio Gates, he played. Neither guy was healthy. And then you go, gee, do you think San Diego spent a little bit of extra time designing and practicing their offensive game plan for Kansas City this August when they didn't score a touchdown against them in 2 meetings last year? Me too. Just saying, that's lazy. It's bad information. But there's worse than that, Paulie. There's a lot worse than that.
Yeah, all right. Doug Baldwin, Seahawks. A regression from last year is coming, but it's not starting this week. A new coaching staff should help some of the Dolphins' problems from last season, but not all of them. They gave up the 5th most 40-yard pass plays, 13, and had the 5th highest completion percentage against on passes, thrown 15-plus yards, 47.8%. At home against a new defense, Baldwin picks up where he left off, end quote. What's a brand new coaching staff in Miami?
Yeah, exactly.
What?
It's new coaches. It's new schemes. It's new players, new upgraded personnel. And by the way, they haven't checked out. If you remember, Miami last year, there were a bunch of veterans on that team that checked out early. You know, week one this year, no, they haven't checked out like last year's guys in. And you want good information? That's why you watch SportsBit, to get good information. This is good info. Seattle's offensive line is a mess. Did you read about what happened earlier in the week? Their first-round pick, Jermaine Ifedi, he suffered a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out for at least 3 weeks. He was in line to be the starting right guard, and now they're doing even more shuffling. They might move Justin Britt over from center, but he's practiced all. Joey Hunt could come in and play center. They could have Jamarcus Webb, who started at guard, but they've been working him out as tackle. It's a mess, and it has been a mess all training camp and all preseason for Seattle on the offensive line. And the latest injury is a significant impact injury that needs to be accounted for. We'll talk more about the Seahawks offensive line woes when it comes to play of the day time.
Yep, and take advantage of some of the bad info and dumb stats that are out there. Sometimes they impact the markets more than you think. Up next, big game breakdown, NFL Week 1. We'll start with the Bengals and the Jets coming up on SportsBit. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts. Shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
All right, back on Big Game Breakdown on SportsBit. Paulie and Teddy. Follow us on Twitter at Paulie Howard, at Teddy_covers. We start with the Bengals and the Jets. Cincinnati favorite on the road, 2.5, 42 the total. As always, live on sportsbookreview.com. You look at this graphic on Andy Dalton's passer ratings over the years, 80.4 in 2011, went up in 2012 and 2013, a dip in 2014. And look at this. Last year, 106.2. Why the surge? Hugh Jackson, Marvin Jones, and Eifert, Teddy. But now he's got to do it on his own. Jackson's in Cleveland, Eifert's hurt, and Jones is in Detroit.
Yeah, and not to mention Mohamed Sanu, who also left town. Jones was number 2. Eifert was number 3 in receptions last year. They combined for 117 catches and 17 touchdowns. It's all Andy Dalton right now. Not all. They still have a guy named A.J. Green. They still got 2 pretty good running backs in Cincinnati. And they still have a defense that ranks certainly in the top half of the NFL, potentially amongst the NFL's elite. But from an offensive standpoint, there aren't a whole lot of teams that lost as much as Cincinnati did this past offseason Remember, Andy Dalton finished number 2 in the entire NFL in quarterback rating, and I don't think you're going to find a lot of people around the league or here in the handicap community that's going to call Andy Dalton the second best quarterback in all of football.
All right, to the Jets. Fitzpatrick's their guy. Good enough. It helps when you have Marshall and Decker. Does Forte have anything left in the tank?
Well, Forte's a running back. I don't worry that much about how much Matt Forte has left in the tank. He does have over 2,000 career carries, which is when some guys start to slow down. But, the Jets have Bilal Powell. They're going to use Forte more as a third down back and a third down receiver. He's a great pass catcher out of the backfield, 487 career catches. But, Fitzpatrick, after all the holdout, look, he might only be an average quarterback, but he's been an NFL starter now for 8 years. And when you have Marshall and Decker on the outside, it doesn't take more than much than average to have success with a team like the New York Football Jets.
We're down on the Bengals. We talked about that in the team previews we did. Are you going to get involved if this goes to 3?
It's not going to 3. All summer we're saying, when this line gets to 3, there'll be some buyback on the Jets. When this line gets to 3, there'll be some. Hasn't happened, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. None of the leading indicators, sportsbook, the pennies of the world, the heritage of the world, none of them are pointing towards a 3 coming here. I think it stays at 2.5, and if anything, it drops between now and kickoff.
Game number 2, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. Bills and the Ravens. Ravens at home 3, 44.5 the total. They hope to get Flacco and Trestman on the same page last year. Never happened because all of those injuries on offense, Teddy.
Yeah, if you remember, it was Jim Caldwell as the offense coordinator in Baltimore when they were having this great success. They brought in Trestman last year and everything fell apart. It wasn't Trestman's fault, but Flacco and Trestman never really had a chance to get fully on the same page. Flacco missed 6 games. Justin Forsett missed 6 games. Steve Smith missed 9. Crockett Gilmore missed 6. Rashard Perryman missed all 16, as did Dennis Pita. So you're talking about, your number 2 wideout, your tight end, your number 1 wideout, your other tight end, your running back, and your quarterback. Well, they're all back now, and they add Mike Wallace at wide receiver. He's going to start for this team, so we're going to get a chance for the first time, perhaps, to see the Trestman offense with Flacco clicking. I don't know if it's going to be clicking on all cylinders, but they'll have all the pieces in place against the Bills defense that, let's just say they have some question marks coming into the new campaign.
Oh, yeah. Recipe for disaster in Buffalo. Here's a pick for you. Rex Ryan, first coach fired, 18-1. The Buffalo defense fell further than any other in the NFL in Rex's first season. Football Outsiders adjusted defense, 2014, number 2. Last year, 28. Then you got to factor in the injuries and the suspensions, Teddy.
Oh, yeah, exactly. They thought they were bringing in Shaq Lawson and Reggie Ragland to add talent at outside linebacker. Oh, they're hurt. Instead, you're starting 33-year-old journeyman Lorenzo Alexander, a guy who's been a career backup, only 16 starts over his 9 NFL seasons. When you think you have the guys, and those guys go down, that's not good news for a defense that is now coordinated by a coordinator who had arguably the worst defense in NFL history last year. The only reason that Rob Ryan's getting another shot is because he has his brother on the sideline.
Yes, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. Giants, Cowboys, Patriots, Cardinals, and the play of the day coming up next on SportsBit. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Hey, sports viewers, tune into the MLB Odds Couple Show for today, Friday, September 9th. Mike Brenner and I have been doing real well for about a month and a half, and I am now officially overall in the year plus units, which is like, blows my mind, but it's true, and you can tune into the show today to see how I do it.
That's true. Hey, you know what? Where's Teddy and Paulie lately? Haven't seen you guys. Hey, why don't Teddy and Paulie come over to our house?
Yes.
We continue on Big Game Breakdown, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. Giants and the Cowboys, pick 'em. 46 the total. Since last season started, Alabama has 3 wins in Jerry's world. The Cowboys have 1, and they won 1 game without Romo last year. How much faith do we have in Prescott, Teddy?
Well, all the focus is going to be on Prescott and Zeke Elliott. But when you're talking about a rookie quarterback and a rookie running back that are expected to run a bunch of read option, what are we really talking about? The NFL's best offensive line up front to set the tempo. You can look at them right here. This offensive line for Dallas. It's all high draft choices. They've been road graders, and they have been absolute difference makers. When the Cowboys have been good the last couple of years, it's been because this offensive line has made everything easier for everyone in that offense. Hasn't stopped Tony Romo from getting hurt, but in this instance, it's at least going to allow Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott to get some opportunities to be effective. But let's not forget how effective Prescott's going to be. Let's put it this way. He has not seen anything resembling a Steve Spagnuolo blitzing defense at any point in the preseason, and probably not at any point even against the SEC defenses he was having some success against in college.
Teddy, why the issues at home? Garrett's 7-22 ATS at home. What is it?
There's a number of different factors. Okay, some of it's static. All right. Some of it is that Dallas has been favored by 6. They've been winning by 5. Some of it, on a fairly consistent basis. So when I say static, that means some of it is just your normal random variance. That any team, at any given point, some team's going to be on a strong point spread run at home. Some team's going to be on a weak point spread run at home. Second issue number 2 or number 3 is that it's a Chardonnay crowd. It's just like the crowd that we talk about in San Francisco, where the new stadium priced out all the diehards. And when it comes to NFL home fields, I'm telling you, if you're still using 3, you're high. 2.5 for some teams. Other teams more like 1.5 or 2. Dallas being one of those squads. So, but the bottom line is, you look at the aggregate level of work, 7-22 in the Jason Garrett era, and you say it doesn't matter why. What matters is that Dallas isn't covering spreads in this building. Certainly not as chalk. Of course, they're not chalk here. The game's priced in a pick'em range.
Giants finally get Beckham Jr. and Cruz on the field together. Why didn't it work in the preseason? Why'd they struggle?
Well, Cruz hasn't been healthy, but more than any other factor, the Giants, there were offensive line issues. Yeah, sure. I think they didn't care. I think they were playing possum. That's what it looked like to me. This is now the 3rd year of McAdoo's offense, so it's not like they're just installing it. And Eli's had great success in that offense in each of the last 2 seasons. It took them about a month and a half into the first season to get it. Now it's year 3. In theory, their full complement of skill position talent is around them. The line was bad. When you compare the Giants' offensive line in August to Dallas, it's not even close. But September is different from August. That being said, I'm not convinced that Cruz is a difference maker on the other side of Odell Beckham Jr. right now. And I continue to worry about that Giants' offensive line, even if their defense is able to step up and play well.
Last one, Sunday night. Monster game on NBC, liveoddssportsbookreview.com. Patriots and the Cardinals. Arizona, 6.5, 46.5. The total. Oh, Garoppolo walking into a buzzsaw. How about this? Gronkowski's questionable. No Deion Lewis. No Vollmer. And he's got to make his first start in one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. Arizona's dynamite at home.
Yeah, but Belichick and Brady seem to figure anything out. That's what they do. But Garoppolo, as you mentioned, it's a dome stadium, an intense crowd, and a complicated defense, which might be the biggest turn of the bunch. Gronk listed as questionable. I would be surprised if he doesn't play. But what really stands out to me, what makes matters even worse for the Patriots, is that a big part of the pass rush is going to be coming from Chandler Jones. And Chandler Jones, of course, the guy who knows New England schemes really, really well after playing with the Patriots for the last several years and winning a Super Bowl title in New England. Now he's taken all that knowledge, given it to the Arizona defense, or helped disseminate that information throughout the course of the Arizona defense, which, when you look at this Arizona defense, man, it's a versatile stop unit. And I would think that this year Arizona's going to have to win a few more games based on their defensive acumen compared to their offense. Because I'm not convinced Carson Palmer, much like Andy Dalton we talked about earlier, I'm not convinced Carson Palmer can match the numbers that he put up last season.
Yes, I'm with you on that, and I'm very concerned with how the season ended. He was horrible in the playoff games, Teddy.
Yeah, he certainly, he had multiple picks in both playoff games, 2 interceptions down the stretch as well. But I want to get back to that versatility of that Arizona defense. Here's Bruce Arians talking about the safety, Tyvon Branch. That's what he did last year. He was very, very successful at it. The beauty of what we want back there, position flexibility of doing so many things. Who's blitzing, who's covering, who's playing deep middle, deep half. You never quite know which one is coming. Defensively, I have all the confidence in the world that we're more talented. We're faster, we're longer, and it should show up on special team. Now they got Branch, they got Tyrann Mathieu back, 2 safeties who they feel very comfortable matching up against opposing wide receivers or tight ends or running backs.
Teddy, does it go to 7?
If Gronk doesn't play, it will go to 7. If Gronk plays, I don't think it gets there. I think we're talking 6, 6.5. We might even see some Patriots money. Talking to some guys around town with pretty deep pockets, and they seem to think that if you like New England, probably better to bet it sooner rather than later. If you like Arizona, of course, all this is off the hook if Gronk doesn't play. If Gronk doesn't play, it goes to 7. But assuming Gronk plays, if you like the Cards, this might be the worst time to bet it, not the best.
All right, money time, play of the day. We told you we were getting back to this game, Miami and Seattle. What are we doing, Teddy?
Let's take a look at the Miami Dolphins plus 10.5. You can still find the hook on this ball game. Remember, it opened 7 over the summer. We talked earlier, we detailed some of the issues for that Seahawks offensive line. Seattle, not a team that in the Carroll era has gotten out to blowouts in week 1. They tend to be a team that gets better as the season progresses. And the Dolphins, with the Seahawks offensive line, the Dolphins defensive line is so deep. Cameron Wake's not starting anymore. Jason Jones opening at defensive end so that Wake can use all of his energy on the 3rd down pass rush. I would expect Miami's front to control the line of scrimmage here for a 10.5-point dog. That makes me very interested. Give me the Dolphins plus 10.5. That's our play of the day.
Excellent. Very good. Good run of shows. We'll recap everything Monday coming up on SportsBit. Tell your friends at Paulie Howard at Teddy_covers. So have a good weekend out there. We'll see you on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.